Welcome to another episode of The Grace Between Us. I think we're on episode 42?
42.
42.
Technically
right.
42.
42.
And
Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit about digital conversations. I like to talk about internet trolling. That's like my title for it, but that's probably not politically correct.
that's all right. You could be an internet troll.
Anyways, yeah.
Today we'll hit up the topic of digital conversations and how Christians should specifically engage in some of these conversations as appropriately as possible. So stay tuned and we'll get to those details here in just a second.
I'm Pastor Lori, and this is
Pastor Nathan, and we are here talking about digital conversations in
Digital
episode number 42.
42.
So first thing I wanted to kind of talk about is the idea, what is assumed in most digital conversations?
a lot. I mean, we all know
A
what
lot.
the, assuming means.
Yeah, making out of you and me, right? You can go ahead and fill in the blanks there, but the more we assume, the more we make out of you and
Well,
me.
there's a lot of opportunity for interpretation.
That lot of opportunity.
And so we have to be careful how we write things and, writing things online, even in text messages,
Oh my gosh.
it leaves so much opportunity for someone to put their own meaning into it.
Yes.
And so we're finding that with
Not just their own meaning, their own inflection.
Their
like
inflection,
I didn't emphasize that. We start to put the
emphasis on the wrong syllable.
There we go. The emphasis on the wrong syllable. I love saying it that way. But we tend to goof up the way we intend to say something. Or it's interpreted differently than we intended to. So
Right.
I love getting into conversation no matter where it happens. But sometimes getting into digital conversation, someone can take my words and hear them differently. Or sometimes I take someone else's words
Right.
and hear them differently. And so I think we have to be on guard of how we're interpreting what people are saying. And for instance, today, a gentleman that I was having a conversation with about a car that came out, the Tesla Cybertruck. You know, it's Tesla's new truck to, rival all other pickup trucks. And you may like it, you may hate it, but particularly
Don't
I
care.
said that I would drive it. I like the look enough that I would drive it. It's new, it's edgy, it's whatever. And I think below the comment was something about my leadership. Now I know he was not at all poking at my leadership or whatever. It was some comment poking back at me. And I know it absolutely wasn't poking at my leadership. But depending on how someone read that and not knowing our conversations and not knowing our relationship, you could take that as a negative. I didn't. I would never take it that way. But it could definitely be taken that way.
Well, sarcasm, especially in the digital world.
Oh,
can
it
be-
doesn't come across all the time.
You just, people determine their own
Yeah.
meaning of it so much. And so it becomes just this kind of stressor.
Yes,
You get
yeah.
really intense.
And if you type in all caps, you definitely...
Don't yell at me. I do it all the time. Stop yelling at me. But, so we're very different on this level. So I'm probably the person who's going to refrain just because I don't want to deal with those conversations.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have anyone go there.
Yeah.
Whereas he's very much, no, I'm going to talk about it,
Yeah.
and have the conversations. I think it's a pretty good balance.
It's a
We
good balance.
each other out.
Yeah, and sometimes she tells me to stop talking, and sometimes I tell her, hey, maybe you should interject.
Right.
And it's fine on either case, but there is so much to be assumed. Scripture in Proverbs 15:1, go ahead and read that. It says,
It says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
and nowhere is this more relevant than on the internet and digital communication. Again, I'm not always a soft person. Sometimes my thoughts get out there and boom, and then I think, oh, well, maybe they could have interpreted that differently than I anticipated.
Well, then I'm like the peacemaker. I want to make everybody feel good.
Yep.
Oh, well, make sure they know you didn't mean it like that.
Yep.
And so it's
And
just
so
really
she's the
interesting.
soft side, and many times I'm the
Yeah.
harsh word side. And so I know why I stir people up because of the way I
like to
communicate.
poke the bear
well,
sometimes?
it's not even that. It's just that sometimes I'm so direct or so affirmative in my answer where not necessarily everybody wants to hear it that way, especially digitally. They can take it for however they want to hear it or view it, and so it's not necessarily what I intended. So the assumption is, I think in Proverbs, that we should probably be more soft with our answers than harsh. So if we're gonna communicate digitally, and we don't want people to assume what we didn't say, learn how to be softer in your answers. That goes for me particularly, and it goes for anyone else who might be a straightforward, straight shooter. Sometimes that comes across in a way that we didn't anticipate.
Right. I'm super cautious when it comes to online. And I know in text messages, though, when you get focused in the mode, I get really task oriented, so I can get super direct in how I respond and things, and it's not intended to be, you know, harsh or anything. It's just I'm trying to get something done. And so even in those contexts, those moments, people can feel like
emojis help.
Emojis do help. You know, they lighten the mood a little bit. Smiley emoji.
That's right. That's
the
right.
one eye, tongue out. I use that one a lot.
I think you're a jerk. Smiley face, clappy hands, fireworks.
That makes it okay.
That makes it okay, right? You can say anything with a smiley emoji, and people should be okay with it, and they shouldn't read into it too much. The other one is what is taken out of context, right? So what's assumed, but what's just taken totally out of context because it's digital. I think personally, I think that's the biggest issue. Is most things digitally are taken out of context. We just blow things up because we're speaking in sound bites, we're speaking in Twitter form, the 100 and whatever characters in Twitter form, we're speaking into a digital means, which is very, very short-lived. So I think a lot of times there's out of context meaning, and even scripture is just pulled way out of context and thrown up in a digital fashion, and we don't see the full context. We assume people know the backstory. We assume people know the background, and they don't.
Well, oftentimes people just read the first 3 lines or something and act like they've read the entire, you know, posting or whatnot. And so, you know, you like it, you share it. Well, do you really know what it said? You know,
or where it came from? Like you're sharing the Babylon Bee as if it's straight up facts. Yeah, I got a problem. Or the Onion. You're sharing from the Onion as if it's not a satirical news source. Like that's probably not going to work.
Right. Yeah. So be cautious. Be aware of where you're getting your information from. Read it. Do some research.
That's right.
You know, that's what Nathan's really good at, doing the research behind what he's talking about. Whereas I don't usually put the research in. So I'm like, I'm just not going to say anything. You know, he's often my research. He's my reference.
For good or bad, right? Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17 says, iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens another. So we need to have good contextual conversation. It should be about sharpening iron, right? It should be about growing in our digital conversations. It shouldn't be about throwing daggers at each other.
No, and you know, you need to be encouraging. It doesn't mean you don't push someone for growth. And so it's not like it's always sunshine and roses. There might be moments where it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult conversation, but that's not a negative. Oftentimes we find that is to be a negative, and it's not. It's let's talk about this. Let's get deeper. We're not offending each other. We're just talking.
So snowflake culture says if I feel offended, that I should run and hide and find my safe space. Listen, don't be a snowflake. Like if you feel offended, so what? No one cares about your feelings. By the way, most of conversations that people have when they offend me, they don't think about how they could potentially offend me. They think about giving their version of the truth or their version of the scenario without thought of offense. They don't care because we have to have in communication the potential to offend somebody. That's how we know we're having a logical conversation. Listen, if someone is honestly offensive, let's say they're a white supremacist and they're going to say that white people are superior. In order for them to air their stupidity and be found out that they're stupid, they have to risk offending someone. Because if they don't risk offending someone, we can't actually find out how stupid the conversation is. Does that make sense? I think that's an area we can all agree on is stupid. No person is above another person based on their skin color. But in order for us to have a good, honest conversation, you have to be willing to air that stupidity, and in airing that stupidity, you have to be willing to offend someone. Come on now. And you have to be willing to offend them back and say, no, you're dumb. You're dumb. That's a stupid comment. White people are not superior to other people. Okay, I think I framed the context pretty well. So iron sharpens iron means that we are probably going to be offended, but bring it back into context. Are they trying to offend you personally, jab at you personally, or are you offended because something about your sensibilities might be offended? That's okay. Doesn't mean you have to agree. In fact, the real heart of disagreement is, I'm offended. It's okay. Put your big boy pants on, deal with it, and have a conversation with someone.
Deal with the feelings that you're feeling.
You know, what's funny is people will come to our church, and I've been fired as a pastor. We've been fired as pastors. People have left our church. You know, when people leave our church, nobody asks how we feel. Nobody ever asks if we're offended. And I don't take it in the context of they mean it personally. Something happened. They transition jobs. Maybe they don't like a particular program we're doing. Maybe they don't like the style of church. They found out we're not the style for them. That's fine. I'm not offended by it. But the moment I ask somebody, hey, why'd you leave? Oh, don't dig too deep. That could be offensive. Why? Why? You didn't care when you left the church. Anyway, Let me get off that subject. We'll pose that for another time. But the point is that we are so ruled sometimes by our emotions that we forget your emotions will betray you. Now, I think you should be honest with your emotions, recognize them for what they are, and deal with them in the context for what they are. But don't let that drive the context of a conversation. I'm emotionally invested in a particular way, and so therefore it drives the conversation. Don't let that happen, man. Bring it back into context. What are they really saying? What is the person really trying to convey? Are they trying to hurt your feelings because they pointed at your favorite superstar and you didn't like it? No, probably not. They're probably just giving their viewpoint or their variation of a story.
You can't walk into a conversation expecting to get offended. I think oftentimes people naturally are like, oh, I know what this is going to be about.
Right.
And all of a sudden they already have this wall up thinking, I'm going to be offended as soon as they start talking about that. When we walk into situations that way, we're going to be offended.
You're going to be offended.
And it's going to feel personal when it's really not.
That's right.
And so if we have the attitude of, hey, I'm going to hear them out.
That's right.
They're entitled to their opinion, even though it's different from mine. And it doesn't make them less of a person.
That's right.
Even on a social media platform.
That's
you know, we don't have to fire back all these daggers. We can have a real conversation, be like, hey, dude, I don't agree with that. That's cool. We can agree to disagree.
Surrounding the whole country's controversy of the time, the president and these impeachment inquiry hearings, I had a conversation with someone over digital means. And at the end of it, we were able to thank each other for being cordial. We disagree with the information at hand. We disagree with what it points to. We disagree with the processes. But at the end of the day, I was able to be cordial and say thank you for having a cordial conversation. We didn't get into the weeds and call each other names. No. We didn't get into the weeds and pick at each other, the difference in hair color, the difference in background, the difference in ethnicity. We didn't call each other stupid. And we just said we disagree.
What if we, instead of trying to tally up the differences, we start tallying up what we do agree on? There's so much that we do agree on with individuals.
And eventually that's what this individual and I ended the conversation on was, man, we agree on a way more than we disagree on. Cool.
And so, I think if we take a step back and try to focus a little bit more on what is agreed upon rather than what is disagreed upon, we might find some more common ground.
And get away from these hot button topics. Right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about it, but don't let it be a firing mechanism for you, right? Oh, they talked about Obama. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, he was the savior. No, he's just a dude. He's just a dude. They're talking about Trump. Oh, Trump's going to set the world to right. You can't talk about blessed Trump. No, he's just a guy. Yeah. He's just a guy holding an office. We respect the office. We respect what they're doing as their time as the president. Come on, man. We don't knock people down just because they're on a different political aisle.
Right.
And we might totally disagree. It doesn't mean we knock them down. It doesn't mean they're saviors. It doesn't mean they're untouchable. Come on now. If they did something wrong, they did something wrong. I still don't think Epstein killed himself, and anyone on that list needs to be exposed and brought to justice. Boom. Boom.
So
digital communication.
Third point
you want to get away from that one?
Epstein didn't kill himself. Digital means replace face-to-face conversation?
No.
And so there's so much from a face-to-face conversation we can get that we cannot, even with emojis, get visually. We can get a lot through with
even
emojis, right?
Or
even FaceTime.
Yes.
You can't. When you walk into a room, we can feel.
Yes.
The attention or the excitement
or the emotion.
Angst. We can feel the emotion in a room when we can't do that online.
No.
And so
you can be FaceTiming someone that might be yelling at the camera because in their world, in their real world environment, they can't hear as well as as maybe you can pick up their voice. And so they're yelling not because they're mad, because they don't think you can hear them.
Right.
Maybe they're emphasizing strongly because the mode of communication isn't allowing them to really feel the room. And so they feel that when you look away or look sideways, that maybe they feel like you're not engaged. And so therefore they're reading something that isn't there. Maybe your attention got caught. Maybe you're looking at something that's important. Maybe you're driving and you shouldn't be. But whatever it is, could be a problem.
Yeah, you don't want to, you can even confuse passion for anger.
That's right.
You don't want to confuse, passion is a good thing. You want to be passionate about things. It doesn't mean you're angry about it. It means, hey, I have a big heart for this. This is what I'm excited about.
I have a big heart for this. I want to talk about it. I want to be impassioned through it. So face-to-face matters much more than digital. I think in this digital age, sometimes we replace digital communication for face-to-face. Maybe we need to get back to some face-to-face.
Digital conversations make it easy to hide.
That's right.
That's why it's safe for us, and that's why we like it.
Man, listen. Ultimately, digital communications are a coward's way of communicating because you don't have to be honest honest. You don't have to be real with your emotions and raw. You can just shout at a TV screen. You can just shout through a phone. You can shout through a computer, and you really don't have honest, nuanced conversation. So ultimately, it is a coward's way of communicating if you refuse to have the face-to-face. This is what tends to happen in my conversations. I had one not too long ago with someone who has a different view on LGBTQ issues than I have. And at the end of the day, I said, listen, I respect your viewpoint, but we don't agree on something, and I would rather sit down and have the conversation in person. This person agreed to do that. I don't know when we'll eventually get that set up, but this person agreed to have that conversation. Why? Because they're a good-hearted, good-natured person. We just see things a little different. So we're going to sit down and have a conversation. Doesn't mean I'm going to change their mind. Doesn't mean they're going to change my mind. But I think we'll end the day with positive, constructive conversation that helps both of us grow.
Iron sharpens iron.
I think that's what the Bible says. So we shouldn't alienate ourselves where we don't have face-to-face contact, but we also shouldn't be afraid of digital conversation. As long as we're pouring in to people, not just trying to take away.
True relationships, I firmly believe, cannot be solely digital.
No.
You just can't.
Eventually, you're going to have skin on skin.
You have to have that physical interaction.
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to touch and feel and be with somebody, be practically there. I think there's a reason that the Bible points toward that. Not that these aren't great modes of communication, they are. But you can't, man, in your time of need, you need a shoulder to cry on, you actually need a shoulder.
Yeah.
Like you can't like form like a pillow version of a person and have a digital face and think that that's going to work, because you can't feel the breath and life in the person. You can't feel that connectedness. So face-to-face needs to happen.
Right.
Man, we hope this helped you maybe navigate through some of the ideas of digital communication and how we should approach those as Christians. Don't stop them, but don't yell at your computer or through your digital device.
Real relationships with that.
Come on.
Don't
replace that.
Yep.
Don't let it cut off.
We could go on for days.
We could go on for days.
We like to talk.
She likes to
He
talk.
likes to talk.
She likes to talk. Trust me.
Well, we hope you enjoyed it. You know, share it with your friends. Follow us on all the social media. The Grace Between Us. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Yes, YouTube. Get on the YouTube.
Subscribe. That's really important for us if you subscribe.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, please put them in there.
Yep.
Please share with your friends. We know that this is a hot topic. We know we all struggle with those digital conversations. So make sure that other people can hear some conversation regarding that.
Yeah. And get into some real conversation. Hopefully this sparks some real conversation with you and those around you to better understand each other through digital means. Be awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll see you next time on The Grace Between Us.